watching animations, and it's hard to abstain from giving our opinions, though we're not classically trained. But we're gonna do it anyway, so just prepare your brain. Buckle up, cause it's the smear campaign.
Hey, it's us again.
Babooey.
Baba Booey. It's Smear Campaign, blurring the lines between reality and animation. My name is Sam.
And I'm Esperanza.
And we're here talking about everyone's favorite movie, Megamind.
Megamind, dude.
Last time, we talked about Spirited Away, a cultural milestone and a classic by any metric. This week, we're talking about Megamind, a DreamWorks film from 2010 that most people remember as a meme. At the same time, though, it's a pretty good movie.
It's underrated, I'll say it like that.
It's, let's talk about our history with Megamind.
Huzzah.
We all know our own history with Megamind. It's a very personal thing.
Where were you when Megamind happened? Okay.
Well, where were you, Esperanza?
Well, when I think I saw it the last time when I was like 12. And that was the only time I ever saw it.
And that was when it came out?
Well, I think that was 2 years after it came out.
Okay.
And yeah, I had a good time. It wasn't like crazy, like I'll remember this for the rest of my life or anything, but it's silly. But now, watching it now, I like the jokes are like...
Yeah, there's a lot of good...
So much better than I remembered.
There's a lot of good jokes, like, just very funny. And I was not expecting that. I watched it only recently. I watched it this past year, just as like out of curiosity, and because I'd heard people online saying, it's actually not so bad. I was like, I'm going to test that theory. And I watched it, and I was like, oh yeah, I agree.
It's good to have opinions on things that are popular.
Yeah, it's important that you have an opinion on everything that anyone ever talks about. But, I mean, honestly, that's pretty much why I watched it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I remember watching it and being like, oh, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And watching it again today, once again, we're structuring this pretty loosely, but we're just going to kind of go back and forth with some points and then read some negative reviews for fun. And I was going through some negative reviews just so we'd have some things to read, and all the reviews basically were like, it's fine. I was like, oh no, is it just fine? Was I like giving it too much of a benefit of the doubt last time I watched it? But no.
No, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it holds up in a way that I was not expecting it to. I think I didn't see it at the time because that was kind of a period where I just didn't really trust DreamWorks movies to be good necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, I assumed that a Pixar movie was going to be good at the time.
Yeah.
Now you never know. But Coco. Solid stuff. We'll get to that one some year.
Yes.
But, yeah, it wasn't like a guarantee that a DreamWorks movie was going to be a good movie. I remember the year before, Monsters vs. Aliens came out.
Oh, yeah. I never watched that.
I watched that one, and it was bad. Maybe it holds up better. I think it's got some of that same, like, very silly, not taking itself too seriously, just as zany as can be kind of humor. But I remember watching it and being like, oh, so that was like a bad movie. So I guess I shouldn't expect DreamWorks to make good movies, which is a silly opinion to have, and I was only, 45 at the time, so I was very young.
You were young, full of hopes and dreams back then.
I had so many wishes.
Now you can settle for shitty movies.
Yeah, now I can just deal with how terrible everything is. And watch Megamind and think, that's a pretty fun movie. But honestly, it was like, it's legitimately funny.
Yeah,
and, like, well made in a lot of ways. I think the CG holds up fine.
It's not bad. There's a lot of good work in there.
Yeah, I think, like, if people are watching it now with the expectation of current technology, it's like, oh yeah, the colors are really flat and the lighting is kind of flat and everything's kind of flat. There's a lot of, like, flat colored.
Yeah, I think just like everything else, you just gotta watch it and appreciate it, what it was for the time it was made. Yeah,
that's an interesting kind of, like, half-life on CG movies where you just don't have that same kind of problem with 2D animation where if it looks good, it looks good. But with CG, the expectation of the technology keeps adjusting and changing. And I think the thing I think of is, like, if you watch The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2, the difference between those is so crazy. But watching The Incredibles 2, I was thinking, oh, this looks just like the first Incredibles movie. Then I went back to the first one, I was like, oh, wow, things have really changed. But yeah, it still looks good. And we're just going to kind of go back to point by point, back and forth with fun facts and observations. Would you like to go first?
I would love to. I was gonna talk about first how... Well, first of all, we could just talk about the fact that the movie's just, like, based on Superman.
Really?
I couldn't tell.
Where did you get that idea?
But it's just so weird. Like, but there are so many other, like, subtle nuances as well, like callbacks to the originals of Superman and the Green Lantern and stuff.
The Green Lantern?
Yeah, including the Green Lantern, which is so random.
How does it reference the Green Lantern?
Okay, so Jonah Hill, who plays
Wade?
Hal.
Hal, yeah.
He voiced the Green Lantern in the Lego movie and the other Batman Lego movie.
Oh.
And the Green Lantern's first name is Hal.
Oh, so they named him after the Green... Wait.
Well, they were just like there were a couple of like callbacks to like previous DC comics and other like superhero comics.
So they named him Hal after Green Lantern, and
Yeah.
then the Lego movie was like, we're gonna reference everything. We're gonna have the guy who played Hal in Megamind play Hal in the Green Lantern in the Lego movie.
Well, it's something that people think. I mean, I think it's fun.
I think that probably happened.
But also, they did the thing with Marlon Brando, like making his super dad.
Yeah, that was that's like a weird impression cameo thing they do,
Yeah.
where it's just like, oh, how are we gonna play? Like, how are we gonna disguise ourselves to be his space parents? Oh, I'll dress up like Marlon Brando.
Yeah,
But
but Marlon Brando played Superman's original dad.
Yeah. Apparently, there's an interview of, what's his name? The guy who played Superman?
Christopher Reeves?
Christopher, yes. There's an interview of him from early on. Because the whole, like, the filming of the actual Superman movie was insane. And, like, one of the craziest developments of, like, any movie. But, and I think both of the first two movies were filmed together. And they were supposed to be one big thing, but they split it up. But Christopher Reeves in some interview was talking about Marlon Brando and was basically like, no, it wasn't really an honor to work with him because he just doesn't care about acting anymore. He was just showing up and getting paid to do basically nothing, and I have no real respect for that. And I think like the late night host who was interviewing was like, oh, well, he's here tonight.
Oh, no.
It was like, he wasn't actually, but it was just like they were just joking around like, oh, shit. You probably don't want him to hear about that. It's like, yeah, I mean,
I don't care, dude.
like he's done a lot of great work, but yeah, apparently he was a nightmare to work with.
Cool. For like the one scene that he shows up in the Superman movies.
Yeah, he doesn't do much.
That's funny.
He's just like Brad Pitt in this movie.
Hey. Wow, that's definitely a callback.
Hey, Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
I guess we can talk about just like the celebrity voices of all the characters. That everyone who's voicing a character in this movie is a big name actor.
Yeah, huge. Sorry.
And Will Ferrell is Megamind himself. Tina Fey and Jonah Hill and David Cross.
David Cross.
David Cross
Gotta
is
love him,
Minion.
dude. From Arrested Development.
Just the most sincere little fish man.
Oh, speaking of Minion, dude. I wanted to show you this picture of the original concept art
Yeah.
for Minion because I thought it was hilarious. So Minion went through tons of different like costume changes and
What they landed on was just a fish in a gorilla suit for some reason.
yeah, like a piranha in a gorilla suit, which is great. I mean, it looks so silly.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a reference to Attack of the Alien Monster or something. There's like this old horror movie that's just the cheapest movie ever made, where it's just the alien is just like a guy with a scuba helmet and a gorilla costume.
What? Maybe it is.
That might have been what they referenced for the final design. The robot monster. So this is the robot monster.
Oh.
I could see this maybe being an inspiration.
Yeah, it kind of does look like it, the gorilla suit, and that's fun. That would be so weird if that was like what they actually did on purpose.
I mean, all things considered, I kind of love this as like a style.
It
It's
looks
like
great.
it's the stupidest thing in the world.
They just found like two things they thought looked a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably just the two props they had.
But look at this concept art.
Oh, he's
like
just a guy.
Yeah, he's just like a little chubby man.
He's just like a classic stoogey looking sidekick guy.
Yeah, but it's so much funnier that he's just like so large and has the carries the little boombox and stuff. And yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the celebrity voices, I mean, Will Ferrell like really shaped this movie, you know.
Yeah, he really does a great job. I usually tune out whenever I hear like, oh, and starring this all-star cast. That's like the least interesting thing when advertising an animated movie, but it's also the most profitable thing. Like that's what every movie does. But yeah, I mean, everyone does a good job, and Will Ferrell's just so convincing. and so effective as this goofy little sweetheart wrapped up in all this chainmail and hate.
Angst.
Yeah, all this little
He's
evil
such
angst.
an angsty boy. Yeah, he did a lot of improv for this movie. Because there was a gag pass.
Tell me about the gag pass.
So the gag
you
pass,
mentioned this.
I did. The gag pass, quote unquote, is just like the term that they use for when a movie's like almost done with production. Like right at the end of production, they do a gag pass to just fit in as many like solid jokes as they can.
Yeah.
And so, notice in all those little sequences, between scene sequences, have, like, a lot of silly jokes and, gags.
Things that might not, like, fit in a regular script, but just pepper in, like, flavor every scene a little bit more.
Like, they are silly,
Yeah.
Like when he gets the chopstick stuck in his nose when he crashes through the window.
Oh, yeah.
Titan.
Oh, yeah. There's just so many, there's a lot of those. And I wonder how many of those were just, like, thrown in completely separate from everything else.
Yeah, I don't know. And they just encouraged Will Ferrell to just, like, improvise whenever he could, and then they would just, like, pick some of those things.
Yeah.
It's just, like, very silly.
Seems like the line where they're about to go fight Titan, and he's just like, we're gonna die! That could have been just a gag pass.
Well, what's funny to think about is because this movie is, like, so, like, Will Ferrell,
Yeah.
Which is crazy. He really, like, does a lot of the legwork on, like, voices and weird stuff.
Yeah, it feels very natural. It feels like just sort of a perfect fit for him.
But what's funny is 2 different people turned down that part.
Oh, yeah.
Before he got it.
Who else was going to play the titular Megamind?
Well, okay, so it was actually pitched to Ben Stiller first.
Mm-hmm.
It was written as a live action movie. Can you imagine?
I can't. No, not really.
I cannot even imagine.
I mean, I guess there's like parodies of superhero stuff. I could see it doing that, but it would have been a completely different movie if it was.
So someone pitched it to Ben Stiller to have him play in a live action movie, but he liked the idea and he brought it to DreamWorks, and then he was like one of the executive producers on this movie because he pitched it to like animation. So he thought it would work as an animated movie.
So they just pitched him the idea of if Lex Luthor won and defeated Superman and got really morose about it, and he wait, so he took that idea from someone else, or
no, they pitched it to him because they wanted him to play the main character.
Okay.
And then I guess he bought the rights to it or whatever.
That's an interesting.
And just thought it would do better as an animated movie. But then DreamWorks wanted Robert Downey Jr. to play the part.
Well, he could never act in a superhero movie.
It was because of that, though. Because he was Iron Man.
Oh, yeah, this was already after he came back as Iron Man.
Yeah, which is interesting.
That would have cost a forttion
to get seriously.
Robert. I think he's like the most well-paid actor in Hollywood now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, at least for the Avengers stuff, he's
a staple of our community.
Of our collective imagination.
Yeah, but there was like scheduling issues or whatever. That's why Robert Downey Jr. couldn't take the part. And then Will Ferrell just kind of like, I don't know.
They eventually settled on a comedy actor to play the comedy part.
Dude, but can you imagine like Ben Stiller doing this part? I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying it would just be so much different. Like everything would be different.
Yeah, it's hard to remove this role from that particular energy that Will Ferrell has.
Yeah, like I'm trying to imagine how the movie would come out if they had picked like a Robert Downey Jr. It'd just be so silly. I don't know, but yeah, that's fun.
Well, we got to talk about Brad Pitt. He's got like 6 lines.
Oh my God, Brad Pitt.
I think he sounds fine. You don't like him necessarily in the movie.
Well, it's not that I hate him so much or whatever. I just think that
that's completely unrelated. The fact that I hate him so much.
I fucking hate Brad.
Jesus Christ, this fucking perfect man.
Brad and Angie back on? Question mark.
Who even cares?
Ben and Jen, Brad and Ange. I don't know.
What?
The classic tabloid.
I'm very behind on celebrity gossip.
Almost 17 years behind.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't caught up on that stuff yet. I'll catch up. I just need to, read through all the tabloids.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah.
All of them. But yeah, I just thought that they could have hired like a different voice actor who would have done a better job. Like I picture the guy who plays Gronk.
Oh, Patrick Warburton?
Yeah. Like he's just a professional voice actor.
Yeah, that his voice would have fit just fine on that.
But it's like Brad Pitt's like big name, huge.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the whole thing with I love Metro Man in this movie, even though he doesn't do very much.
Yeah.
Because they really play with the furthest possible example of the archetypes they're parodying. Because it's Superman. It's Superman versus Lex Luthor, except they're both Superman. And one of them's just like super smart and the other one's super strong.
Yeah.
But they go to such extremes with him as Metro Man is this like beacon of goodness in a way that's so absurd. Like he's flying around the stadium and picking up people's babies and juggling them, and everyone's like, "Yeah, you do that."
Everyone's like crying. Someone smooches on his foot as he
people
flies
are like
by.
touching his feet. He's like Jesus. He's
She
walking.
kisses his foot.
She does, yeah. When is
God,
she gonna
I
get
wish
another
that were
opportunity?
me.
If only. He's like using his powers to like walk on water right in front of them as he feigns all his sincerity into the microphone. He's like, "What I really care about is all of you out there."
Oh yeah.
And it's so silly, and they go to like such extremes to show this like shallow vision of like good and bad being completely accepted by everyone. Like everyone's just like, "Oh yeah, don't question Metro Man," and everyone hates Megamind. It's like a professional wrestling where you've got like the heel that everyone's like programmed to boo at, and the good guy who everyone cheers for, and it's all staged, and it's all like everyone knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's made up.
Yeah.
And like, it's like that too, where they fight, but they know they're not going to kill each other.
Yeah,
it's just like an unspoken.
Yeah, during the last, or when Megamind is fighting Titan, he's like, "Wait, no, that's not how you play the game."
Yeah, he's like, "All right, time to take me to jail," and he's like, "I was thinking more like the morgue."
The morgue.
He's like, "Oh my god, that's not how you."
No.
Those aren't the rules.
You're taking this too seriously. But it's funny like how much they stick to the parody of it, and how much like this world is built on tropes, and it's like it's not supposed to be rational beyond like the tropes that we are all so familiar with. That was something that a lot of the negative reviews say is like, "Oh, you've seen this all before," and "Oh, like these are," it's like so reliant on pop culture, and it's like, yeah, but everyone knows this stuff. It's not even like parodying Superman. It's more of just like taking this shared collective story and saying, this is sort of silly.
It's already ingrained in our minds, dude.
Next
it's the microchip, Sam.
Next it's the microchips. Next it's the sign of the beast. Yeah, another great... I think when I first watched it earlier this year, I think the first part that I was just completely like, oh man, this is going to be great, is when Metro Man just flies out of the schoolhouse that they both go to growing up and just picks it up and flies it away. It's like filled with children and they're all like cheering, and the teacher's like, "Yeah, go Metro Man." It's like, what are they doing?
I love you.
Why are they okay with him doing this?
It's so silly. Yeah, because he's just removed from all doubt.
He's the good guy. So he gets to do whatever he wants and everyone loves it.
And the good guy always gets the girl. They say that several times in the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of reincorporation in this movie too.
What about the boy?
What about
this is so non-inclusive, dude.
What about when the good guy wants the boy? What if Megamind was actually obsessed with the guy that he turned into? You mentioned that at some point.
Oh my god, I did. When he's looking at his reflection in the mirror.
There's a shot where Megamind is, just after he abandons Minion and decides to go on the date with Roxanne, he puts on his disguise and looks at himself in the mirror, and you were like, what if he's in love with the guy?
Yeah.
Like, that would be a surprise.
So Megamind is secretly actually dropping homoerotic subtext hints for Bernard.
This is something parents should know before bringing their kids to the movie.
10 things parents should know before bringing their child to see Megamind.
Gay subtext? Sure, if you look for it.
But Brad Pitt's in it.
And
that's kind of hot. You like Brad Pitt, remember?
Listen, moms, you love Brad Pitt. Remember that magazine where he was the sexiest man in the world? Yes, that was from 20 years ago. That's okay.
Sexiest man alive. And all the kids listening to this podcast are like, who's Brad Pitt?
And all the kids listening to this podcast are like, what is this podcast?
Why are they making this shit?
Have we even talked about like what happens in the movie? Maybe we should go over the plot.
That's so true. We didn't even touch on Did we do that last time?
No, but also Spirited Away is, I think, more kind of universal, I guess. I feel like people... It was like a successful enough movie, but it wasn't like it's not a staple. People haven't like gone back to rewatch Megamind every year or whatever.
This was actually one of DreamWorks' lowest grossing films ever.
Yeah, that's a shame. It's
such a shame.
Yeah, it's better than Shrek 3 or Shrek 4.
But it was because of Despicable Me, really. Because Despicable Me came out 4 months before.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's like that when those two movies came out that were both just like, hey, we're friends. And it's like, not too complicated, but what if we just started having sex, dude?
Yeah, there's one that's called It's Complicated that has Justin Timberlake. And then there's one that's called
Friends with Benefits?
Friends with Benefits with Mila Kunis.
Right.
It's true.
But yeah, that's like a Bug's Life and Ants came out at the same time. A lot of reviews also very negatively compared it to Despicable Me, which I guess people really liked more at the time.
Weird.
Which
People
is
really
weird.
like the Minions, I think.
People love the Minions. It became a huge sensation.
Huge thing.
Bigger than anything. But,
Bigger than God himself.
bigger than the biggest rock. But, yeah, I don't know. I did watch Despicable Me at some point back in the day, and I don't remember it being as funny as this. Maybe
We should have to...
We'll definitely have to watch Despicable Me. We gotta see what Gru's up to. Gru and all his lovable minions.
Gru in his nose.
And his 3 rancid daughters.
And Vector.
Vector? I did not remember anything more about that movie.
I don't know. I can't remember if that was 1 or 2 or 3 or the Minions movie.
Anyway, so Megamind. Yeah, it was unfortunate that it came out right around the same time, and people who don't know how movies work were like, oh, they just ripped off Minions. It's like they were both in production at the same time.
Yeah, it only takes 4 months to make
Megamind. Takes more than 4 months.
Actually, fun fact. I know, I'm just peppering in the fun facts here. But it took one team of animators like 4 solid months just to do that one scene where the conservatory explodes and the skeleton flies out and stuff.
Oh yeah, that makes... Just like the shot where they blast the observatory.
Yeah, where it explodes. Apparently it took a team like 4 months to do that with the technology at the time.
Oh, like for rendering it?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I do animation stuff, but I don't know much about 3D animation other than it takes a lot of horsepower to render things.
Yeah.
Especially things that have to move.
Seriously.
But yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of like lavish shots and scenes.
Yeah,
like
it's nice.
Locations. When you started talking, I thought you were gonna talk about the scene at the like museum of Metro Man when both Megamind and Roxanne are lamenting the death of their hero.
That's right.
And that was I think that's a great example of just like they make the scenes more fun than they need to be. Like the DreamWorks, I think, formula is just, for a while at least, it was very zany. I think some of the movies like the How to Train Your Dragon movies and the Kung Fu Panda sequels kind of moved away from that and gave it a little more heart and a little more like focus on the character.
Yeah.
But a lot of the movies focused a lot on like, let's be crazy. Let's be wild. And I think this is a good example of like that benefiting a scene because there's this scene where they're meeting up and Megamind has to kind of like haphazardly grab some guy's likeness and transform himself so that Roxanne doesn't recognize him, and they're talking and like he's sort of using her as a springboard for his own ideas, but then also he rigged the place to explode and they've got like 2 minutes to get out and they have to like go down this elevator and walk down this escalator, and it's just this underlying gag of absurd violence and ridiculousness that, you know, makes the scene a little more fun to watch.
It's so very silly.
Yeah, it's just silly. And I'm like over intellectualizing it, but it's really like well executed. I think there's a real skill to making that kind of stuff not feel awkward or clumsy.
And another thing that's fun is just like, I didn't tell you this, Sam, because it's a fun fact.
Oh man, it's a world
Classic.
premiere.
Fun fact of Desperanga. Ben Stiller makes a cameo. He plays the real voice of Bernard.
Oh, that's fun.
Which we only hear one time. Or twice, actually.
Oh yeah, we hear him in the end credits. Where...
Oh, 3 times then.
Right.
Sorry.
Just like this bored museum worker just doesn't care.
Yeah. So he just plays the voice, but then Megamind doesn't get a chance to record his voice before he changes into him and dehydrates him. So he doesn't pick up the voice of Ben Stiller. He uses his own voice. With all the other characters he switches into, he takes their voice with him.
There's so many in-jokes in this movie.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Like that. There's so many levels to that kind of in-joke where it's like...
Yeah.
Specifically addressing the mechanics of how everything works and like the little technology goofy stuff and saying like, oh well, he doesn't get his voice because he didn't record it, and also he doesn't get his voice because Ben Stiller's not playing the character anymore.
Yeah, because Ben Stiller's not gonna do it.
Because Ben Stiller's a worthless bum who produced the movie and is the reason why it happened.
Sucks.
And has created lots of entertainment for people around the world.
But
Ben
yeah,
Stiller's on watch. What?
That's a fun fact about that little... There was just a little cameo. They snuck it in there, and, you know, not a lot of people know about it.
I feel like if you look closely, every single, like, moment of the movie is, like, some weird
It's very
in
silly.
joke.
Yeah, a lot of them.
There's a lot of other just like funny, weird wordplay and just goofy, absurd things. Like, there's a shot where Megamind and Roxanne are like researching, and they're like reading books about Megamind, and he pulls up a book that says "Unmasking Megamind," and he's like looking above it, and it's a picture of his face on the book.
Ah.
And it's like, it's a good little joke.
They threw it in. That was probably part of the gag passage.
But then in the same scene, there's like just a sign between them that says, that's just Metro Man saying, "Read words, kids."
Oh, that's right.
It's just like, that's the stupidest kind of like affirmative educational poster that you'd see on the wall, but it's just like, read words.
Yeah, it's just like a silly little joke. It's just a joke in the background. It's not even like a foreground joke.
It's all the way in the back.
In the background.
What about the fore? Where's my foreground jokes?
Yeah, but it's good. There's just a lot of little nuanced jokes, and it's a good movie, I think, for adults to watch.
Yeah.
Also.
There's a lot of good stuff in there, and a lot of it, like, doesn't slow down for kids, which is nice, because
there's so many plot twists, and the plot twists are actually even unpredictable.
Yeah, they do a lot with the mechanics of the world. Like, Megamind is this evil scientist, so he's got gadgets, but he only uses a few of them, and he just they reincorporate the same things over and over again, and that makes it feel more gratifying to like see how things are working.
Yeah.
Like, when he decides to start cleaning up the streets to like please Roxanne, he's using his the dehydrator?
Yeah, the dehydrator.
Which like turns them all into tiny little cubes. But then in like the dramatic scene where it's raining and they're walking away and they're all sad, and then the trash starts like exploding up all over the place and like makes the whole place look like a mess, just to like add to the tone of the scene.
Because it is being rehydrated.
Yeah, because it's raining. It's like, that's smart.
It is
and
smart.
The fact that they keep reusing the same thing, and they like, that's even like the very last triumphant moment as he uses the dehydrator on himself and then falls into the fountain so that he doesn't like, I guess it's just like so he doesn't
die.
Yeah.
So he doesn't die.
Yeah, I guess that's the motivation. I was just trying to think of like what the specific circumstances was. Like, oh yeah, he's just falling to his death. Yeah, it's like, it's very clever and thoughtful with its mechanics, and it doesn't need to be, but it is. And like in the same way that I think we're so pleased with all the effort and like the world building and stuff in the Hayao Miyazaki movie, it's like in a very different way, this also has a lot of that thought and intention and design put behind it that you wouldn't necessarily expect from a movie that is definitely marketed toward kids.
Yeah. And when I saw it the first time, I was taken aback by, first of all, the fact that Metro Man was still alive.
Oh yeah.
That part, I was like, whoa, how is this happening right now?
Yeah,
I'm 12,
They don't tip their hat at all. It's just like, oh yeah, Metro Man's dead, and now here's what happens next.
Yeah, and like no one in the city is like is like, what the fuck? Why is Metro Man here? They're all just like, woo, he's back.
Yeah.
Like they forgot he died, but anyway.
The audience is just, or the crowd is just there to
They're
like,
literally
spectate.
just there.
Yeah, they don't ask questions.
It's great.
They'll go along with whatever.
But then the other plot twist was that Metro Man also lied about being allergic or having copper be his weakness, which is how they found out in the first place.
Yeah, the fact that like they try to use copper to stop Titan, and he's completely immune to it. It doesn't affect him at all. It's like, wait a second, what? I thought I knew the rules here. And it's like, oh, the rules weren't there at all because...
Yeah, they were broken.
Yeah.
The unspoken rule was broken.
So even though, like, they haven't told you that Metro Man's alive yet, it does give you reason to be like, oh, so maybe things didn't turn out the way I thought they did. It's not like a crazy story, but it, like, goes along at a good clip.
Yeah, and also the other plot twist, I guess, was that the Metro Man character coming back is actually Megamind.
Yeah, I watched this as an adult, and I feel like I pretty much know how movies work, but when Metro Man came back, I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, I thought the whole point was that Megamind was going to have to do it himself, and Metro Man coming back and solving the problem, it's like,
right.
I guess that's gratifying, because it's like, oh, we get to see Metro Man in action, but it's not as satisfying because everything's kind of getting solved for the villain, or for the hero.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh no, it's not. He's using the disguise again. The disguise that he keeps using throughout the movie.
But just think, I mean, he can be so much more powerful, because when he is in Metro Man's body, he can have all of Metro Man's powers. When he's acting as him, right?
Well, no, he's just pretending. He's got like fancy gauntlets and he's flying around in little jet boots or whatever. But he's just bluffing the whole time. Like he doesn't actually throw a punch.
He doesn't have the powers.
Yeah, he's just
just as the form.
Yeah, he's got the presence.
I didn't notice that. What was that part we did an instant replay on?
Oh, there's a part where Roxanne just says, "Oh yeah, we were never dating." I'm like, wait, what?
Can we get an instant replay on that?
Wait a second, what? That's impossible. But they spent so much time together. I guess like because the parallels to Lois Lane are so clear, it was like, oh yeah, they're dating because that's what they do. That's what this relationship is. But I guess by saying that was never really the relationship, then it feels less weird for her to not care as much when Metro Man comes back to life and opens it up to that like relationship with Megamind being more of a natural fit.
Yeah, and it turns out that all three of the main men in the movie were just like in love with her the whole time.
They were all in love with her and they were all lying to her the whole time.
Yeah.
She was the victim of so much deceit.
And she was the only person who didn't, who wasn't like head over heels in love with Metro Man. Yeah,
well, at first she seemed to be. I guess that's part of what was confusing about it because, like, in the early scene, she's, like, writing a whole speech about how Metro Man is a hero of our time and something we can only aspire to and appreciate, the wonder that is Metro Man.
He's an ocean of kindness in a bigger ocean or whatever she says.
An ocean of kindness in a larger ocean of kindness.
It's so silly.
Just completely hyperbolic.
But she's also the only person who doesn't, like, originally, when Megamind, like, kidnaps her or whatever, she's, like, not scared at all.
Yeah.
She's just like, you're not that bad of a guy.
Well,
not like that, but it's just like, you're not going to really do anything because
she's in on the game.
Yeah.
Because she's become a part of it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, they've just kind of roped her into it. Into the play of it all.
That's interesting. Women, what can you do?
What can you do?
Maybe if she had just listened to a man, we wouldn't have had any of these problems.
Go off, Esperanza. Tell him what's what.
You tell him how you really feel, Phyllis Schlafly. Sorry. Why did I say that? I take it all back.
It was a mistake. But yeah, I like the way another thing you mentioned was about the Legion of Evil guys that didn't make it into the movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were going to be the ones terrorizing the city, this, like, Legion of Doom or whatever it was called. Syndicate of Doom.
The Syndicate of Doom.
That's what it was.
Just different enough to not be copyright infringement.
Right, exactly. The Evil League of Evil. So they were going to be the ones terrorizing the city that Megamind would have to beat. And they had all these quirky names, and one of them was actually just Alec Baldwin.
Oh.
Who charms people with his crazy good acting skills or whatever.
I like when they put in a character that's just a celebrity, but like a mean take on the celebrity, but also complimentary.
It's just
like,
very silly.
What did you have to do to get their likeness? But I like that they didn't go with that. Because I think the way they incorporated Hal as this absolute twerp who's got no like redeeming qualities
Mr.
whatsoever.
Nice Guy.
Mr. Nice Guy, the Lord of the Insults. It's really... I don't think it's not ahead of its time because it's not like guys like that came out in the mid-2010s.
No, they've been around.
They've been around.
Hiding in their mom's basements.
They've been hanging out. But it's funny that it had such a spot on... I guess it's also a parody, but it's also like pretty spot on summary of the kind of guy that they're talking about.
You want to come over Thursday night? I rented a bouncy house and made a gallon of dip.
A gallon of dip, just so not charming and not pleasant.
Classic nice guy. He's like, why doesn't she like me? I'm so nice to her. I would treat her so well, so much better than all these other men.
If I was Metro Man, then you wouldn't get kidnapped at all. That's the first thing. And while he's saying that, she's getting kidnapped.
So silly.
But like...
Yeah, there's also that other part where after he becomes Titan, he's like, I'll just save your life, and then he endangers her life like multiple times and saves her every time.
He's got like no sense. It's like that perfect summary of people who think that relationships are mathematical like equations where you can just like, oh, if I do this nice thing, then that means I'll get this nice thing back.
5 easy steps to pick up any girl in 5 minutes.
Listen, fellas, I'm just gonna tell you. You're doing it all wrong. There's 5 things you gotta do. Any girl is gonna want to be with you.
Every woman likes a man who takes control.
First, you need to establish contact by touching her hair.
Maybe slap her around a bit. Oh my god.
You need to make sure she's financially dependent on you.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, it is like that.
It's basically, yeah, it's just like that weird, creepy,
The movie's like that. I mean, it's not like that in real life.
This is how it really is, man. Go off, Esperanza. Tell him what's what.
Oh, man. Yeah, but it's like that in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, Hal's like, all I have to do is follow these simple steps, and he only took the gig to get the girl, you know?
It's the creepiest motivation, and it turns out that he's actually not a nice guy even when he is a Chad bro. When he has, like, all the strength and all the power and all the, like, potential. He's still just a nasty, rancid little guy, and so...
He's evil, dude.
It doesn't... Evil. And, like, the turn where he just gleefully accepts being a villain as soon as it doesn't work out for him as a hero. He's like, listen, we could team up. And Megamind's mortified.
Yeah, because he wants to be a bad guy, too.
Yeah. Well, Megamind... I mean, at this point, it's like, Megamind doesn't even want to be a bad guy. He just wants to play the game.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, you can't do this stuff. It's illegal. It's like he's... Even that at that point, he's just like...
Yeah, he just wants to... You know, he's bored. He was bored of being in control of everything. Yeah. That was it.
He's just a sweet little guy who wants to play, you know, he just wants to LARP in the woods. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Man,
They're
yourself.
Just LARPing in the woods. Tag yourself. I'm the one LARPing in the woods.
I'm that guy over there in the bushes. LARPing around.
Don't ask me any questions.
Doesn't LARP stand for loser and reject party?
Dude! Sick!
That's from Red. Like, I ripped that off so hard.
Still, though, sick copyright infringement.
Don't sue me.
I don't know. I think the superhero genre actually worked even more so than the sort of basic, oh, flip the roles. The villain's the good guy now. Like, it works as a good genre to talk about that kind of, like, toxic masculinity in a way. That idea of, like, power and authority grant you whatever you want. Because Metro Man got all that stuff. And Metro Man was, like, beloved regardless of what he did. And the idea that that's something that just anyone can have, or that anyone should have even.
Yeah.
Like, I think they go out of their way to show that Metro Man's not really the best guy in the world. Like, when they discover him and he's Music Man, he's just sort of like this... goofy,
annoying dude, yeah.
Yeah, just like, oh, you're kind of a...
He's a Chad, dude.
Just a worthless Chad.
He plays his little song, and it's super random. Super random.
I can see through lead. Granted, you have talent, but we need to go.
I hate to throw a fun fact in there. But since you brought up that one scene, I just want to throw it in.
Yeah, do that.
That song he sings was written by the guy who voices Megamind's dad on the planet. That guy just, like, wrote the song, and then Brad Pitt sang it.
That's the funnest fact of all.
Isn't that a fun fact? I thought it was
that guy
sweet.
who had one line also wrote a song.
He, like, has half of a line. He doesn't even get to say his full line.
Yeah.
And he just wrote that little song, that shitty song for Metro Man to sing. So, you know, do with that what you will, Sam.
Have any other fun facts or things to share?
Oh, I had I think there's a couple more.
Sure.
Not really. I just wanted to mention that this movie had 3 different sets of directors before the last guy, Tom McGrath, picked it up. Which is pretty common for, like, DreamWorks animation movies, I guess.
They go through a lot of directors.
Yeah, I mean, there's always one final director credited, but there were, like, several sets that were, you know, given little honorable mentions in the...
Did he say anything about, like, how long the movie was in production?
Oh, I didn't actually check on that.
Because a lot of these movies take so long to come out that they just go through completely different visions. I know the movie had, like, a few different titles that it went through.
Yeah, it was like Ubermind at some point. I remember it was, like, very silly names.
Megamind was the right choice.
Seriously. For the movie. No, I searched it and it said 96 minutes. Because that's how long the movie is.
It sure is. I feel like the movie could have been a little longer.
Yeah, it was pretty short, right? I felt like it went by very quickly.
Yeah. I think if there's one thing that I saw pretty regularly in the negative reviews was just that, like, there's not a lot of heart to the movie. it's like, it's sincere and it's likable, and I think it does a good enough job getting you from plot to plot, but it really does rely a lot on the humor, and I think if it really wanted to have that kind of like emotional core, like I didn't feel too bad when Minion was pretending to die at the end, or when they were like, oh, we can't beat him, we're not going to win this. Like, there was no real sense of tension or dread to that.
Yeah.
And I think if they spent a little more time with the characters, they could have made that a little more compelling, or just like more time with Megamind and Roxanne. It's like their relationship, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Why they kind of like fall in love over time, I guess, but it doesn't feel like compelling.
Because he really fucked her over, to be honest. He lied to her so much.
He's just like Aladdin. He just lies the whole time. Then he shows up and he's like, I'm actually poor. And she's like, I can't date a poor man.
Disgusting. And that's how the movie goes.
I haven't seen Aladdin for a while. But
so you've never seen it?
What? No.
That's the next one, Sam.
Gotta watch it eventually. It feels very much like they got all the plot they needed to get and then stopped.
Maybe that's why people like Despicable Me better. I never really thought about it like that, because inside I love the silly, like very silly stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I didn't think about the fact that people like Despicable Me because it's like very like heartwarming, and the three little girls and my heart, and all the characters, and they all love all the characters and stuff.
They go out of their way to make that like the most saccharine, like beautiful family coming together. They love each other kind of movie.
Yeah, maybe that's what, and it never really occurred to me that maybe that's like what the main audience is looking for.
Well, I think that's what usually distinguishes Pixar and DreamWorks as like the two big studios that people compared to each other a lot back in the day. Was just like DreamWorks makes funny movies and Pixar makes like meaningful movies, but you know, Pixar also makes funny movies and DreamWorks also makes
meaningful.
But I think people have more attachment and more investment in movies that take themselves a little more seriously and try to be a little more emotionally resonant, which this movie doesn't really go for. I could see that being one of the things that kept it from being as successful, at least at first.
True. And people in their reviews were upset about this movie because they didn't get it, right?
No, people got it. This movie isn't hard to get. Like, even though it's got a few different layers of metaphor behind like the way the characters interact and what they value and all that, but it's pretty straightforward. It does a good job of like bringing you from place to place. There's not a lot of reviews that are just like, what the fuck is this Asian change? Like, I don't understand this movie.
Yeah.
With Spirited Away, it's just like people just weren't impressed, and I don't know. I think it's hard to impress people with gags because they assume that, oh yeah, it's just a joke. Whatever, anyone can write a joke.
I'll write a joke right now.
Go ahead.
Your mom. Get it? Because, you know. Anyway. Sorry.
This is the one pause we don't cut.
It just goes on so long.
Just like extend it, like copy and paste it so it's 10 times longer.
This just it. Speaking of reviews, Sam.
Oh yeah, speaking of negative reviews. So as has become a sort of tradition as we enter our second or third?
Third, technically, but this will be our second, I think.
We make explicit reference to the first podcast during the second podcast, but we're deciding not to do the first podcast. So that second podcast is the first podcast, and this is the second podcast.
And still making the conscious decision to mention the first original podcast in this second podcast.
I think it's important that we keep mentioning the first podcast in every subsequent podcast.
We will not let you forget about it.
Also, eventually we're going to post these somewhere.
At some point, yes.
I don't know. But as part of the tradition of this long established series,
20 years,
we're just going to read some negative reviews because it's kind of funny and kind of interesting to talk about like people who just don't like the movies. And I'm sure we'll cover movies that we don't like at all in the future, but I don't know. It's a smear campaign, you know? We're smearing the movies.
You know we're watching Pocahontas too at some point.
We gotta watch Pocahontas too. It's a classic.
Oh, jeez.
So here's this first one.
Alright. A.D. Anno Domini. Sorry. November 25th, 2011. Anno Domini gave this 2 out of 5 stars. Good voices and animated faces, but I was in and out of attention. It's like a review of the army.
Animated faces?
In and out of attention.
The faces were great. The bodies, I could do with them.
Not so much, yeah.
I didn't really notice the bodies that much.
If there were no hands, my life would be better.
If they could just cut off these characters' legs, I would feel more at home. Keenan says, 1 star. I like the music because the story was odd. Frowny face.
Oh, I assume this means the only good thing to focus on was the music?
Or he only liked the music because of how odd the story was.
Interesting.
Maybe the music wouldn't have worked if the story was a little more
Normal.
more predictable.
Yeah, interesting.
Even though it's the most predictable.
KJ gives it 2.5 out of 5 stars. They say cute, comma, but it's no Ratatouille or one of the first Shreks, comma, or Wall-E.
Those are the 3 ones you gotta go for.
Ratatouille, Shreks, or Wall-E.
My favorite Shreks is Shreks 6.
I like that there's a plural. It's the plural Shreks. One of the first Shreks.
They mentioned 4 movies. Ratatouille, Wall-E, and Shrek and Shrek.
Shrek and Sons.
And those are the ones, yeah. Those are the ones to beat.
Those are the 3 classics. Yeah, everyone wants to be Ratatouille. Speaking of Ratatouille... I don't know. We should really...
We should probably watch Ratatouille. You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it.
That'll be the next one.
I don't know.
We gotta watch a Pixar movie, so we gotta watch Ratatouille.
Yeah.
I also haven't seen it for a long time, and I've heard a lot of people say it's like the best one.
I've seen a couple scenes, but I've never watched the full.
It's got a rat in it.
Oh, yeah.
Mark N gives it half a star.
Ooh, half a star.
Now that's a spicy take. Utterly lacking in original ideas, it is instead a world populated with brightly colored shapes that move fast. Characterization is replaced with unpleasant adult comedy actors struggling with voiceover work. If that's what passes for character development and entertainment, it is lost on me.
I opened my mouth in shock during that review. Wow, he really just came for their necks.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean...
No, if you put me in that movie, I would voice over so much better than anyone. Will Ferrell, I'm coming for your crowd.
This guy's a real-life Hal.
Classic.
If I was there, you wouldn't even get kidnapped.
Now featuring Mark N.
Featuring Mark N. from Metacritic.
Megacritic. The classic. Is that a chainsaw?
Someone's driving a lawnmower down the street. Yeah, I love when people are just like, adult comedy actors struggling with voiceover work? I don't think you could really say that with any real... Is that something that they're struggling with?
Yeah.
A lot of people loved the voiceover work. Like everyone... Every other positive review is like, I love the voices.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, it's Will Ferrell, dude. What are you gonna do?
They did just fine.
What are you gonna... I mean, Jonah Hill, he's a great guy.
But Mark N's got a point.
But he said utterly lacking in original ideas, which is, I mean, it's just following, you know, all these...
Yeah, it's just making
staples.
It's like taking Batman and just doing it again.
Yeah.
Except there's like 16 Batmen. It's all just the regular citizens.
Yeah.
You don't see them acting as Batman during the movie.
They're all Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Because that's the scariest thing about Batman is he could be any of us.
God, the 1% is more terrifying than any Batman could ever be.
That's why mummies are the scariest monsters. Because it's just zombies who are like 1%ers.
Rich.
Yeah. They get to keep all their wealth.
Kami F gives this 2 out of 5 stars. I like how they make fun of Superman. That was funny. Why does everyone in this movie have a giant forehead? It bugged me.
One character has a giant forehead. It's the guy whose joke is that he has a giant head.
The plot had some unexpected twists, but some predictable ones as well. Ugh. I like how they put a twist on the classic hero versus villain thing. For most of the movie, I was shaking my head and going, oh, brother, really?
I don't know what the connection between these statements are. They're listed one after the other, but I feel like...
There are dashes in between the independent thoughts, which I like. Next thought is, I hate Will Ferrell. But this was okay, because I couldn't see him.
Take that, Will Ferrell's face.
I love David Cross as the Minion. How can you not?
He's a good guy.
I didn't like that everyone in the movie had a bit of stupid side, and things just kind of worked for them. I can't really decide if I liked this or hated it. I'm leaning towards the didn't like, though.
Yeah, it seems that way.
She said I can't decide if I liked this or hated it. But she's leaning toward the didn't like side. It's not one of the options.
She tended to state most of the things she didn't like. But I don't know.
Also, there's no way this is it's not necessarily a female, so they...
It's Kami F. F for female. That's how you tell on the internet.
Oh, that's why everyone's calling me boy.
Oh my god. Ooh. Ruby C gives it 5 stars. Bad can also get a girl.
You know what? Yeah.
Bad people deserve girlfriends. State ordained. Like what Jordan Peterson said that one time.
You're gonna have to tell me, Sam.
He's a weirdo, pseudo-intellect. I don't know. He's a like psychology professor, I think, from Canada, who got famous for hating trans people.
Oh, cool. Just
And,
like J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, and he made.
So
Yeah, he's a lot like her. They probably would get along just fine. But there's some weird clip where he just says these ridiculous, like, terrible things, and then if you bring them up and say, like, hey, this is a terrible thing, then his fans will say, you're taking him out of context, and there's always, like, a million exceptions to why it's fine. But at one point he said something like, less men would commit, like, murders if they had girlfriends, and maybe that's something that should be, like, taken care of and, like, like, provided to them. It's like, wow.
Oh, the Russian mail order brides, dude.
Blessed be the fruit.
May the Lord open. Reminds me of, I won't say the name, I'm gonna dox myself, but you know who I mean.
You can't dox yourself by mentioning someone else's name, who also nobody knows.
I will dox myself now.
Yeah, according to Ruby C, bad can also get a girl.
Bad can also get a girl.
I thought Mr. Megamind got kind of nice by the end, but I guess it was him being bad that got him the girl.
And this is Ruby's official ad for any bad guys to hit her up, because they can get this.
And her name is Ruby C, so she's a cephalopod. The internet's a wild place.
Real isopod hours. Alright, this next review is Mikey S. 2 stars out of 5. This movie was supposed to be like a live action movie, so I watched it. Not bad, funny. But I'd like to have seen it as a live action movie. Wow, interesting take. Because we were like, how would that possibly work?
I mean, it would have just been a different movie, but like, it's not like they were advertising it as a live action movie.
Yeah, he had to go see it because he wanted to see it as a live action movie, but it wasn't a live action movie. It was just sort of okay. I don't know.
I mean, fair enough. It's just a weird thing to be like, I would have liked it as a live action movie. I went to see it because it would have been a live action movie, but it wasn't. So I didn't like it.
Dude, I bet it would have been such a weird live action movie. I mean, a movie with Ben Stiller.
Already, I'm out.
No.
Fuck you, Ben Stiller.
Not like that.
You've created plenty of wonderful things that people enjoy to this day.
I think Night at the Museum was like a very endearing live action kids movie by Ben Stiller. I don't think that we need it anymore. And I think that Ben Stiller also understood that about himself and just continued to make sequels of the same content that, was getting him the goods.
I think you're right.
I've gone too in-depth into Ben Stiller's point of view here.
There's a lot of particulars to that statement. I think you did, yeah.
I think I'm right, Sam, without a shadow of a doubt.
I agree.
We can call him right now and ask.
Spyros T for Tyrannosaurus gives it 3 stars. I found Megamind pretty good, although I generally dislike animated films.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it more than Despicable Me, but it's a play-it-safe flick. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's a fun riff at superheroes and their villains, but it can't compete in the same universe as The Incredibles, the parodies of Superman and Brando. Will Ferrell and David Cross was probably the best parts.
It's a good thing they're the main characters, Sam.
Yeah.
I'll say it.
It's a good thing we spend a good amount of time with them. I like when people need to specify specific things in their reviews, where it's like, the parodies of Superman and Brando. I noticed that, by the way. Like,
by the way, some of you might not get that. You may have to Google this when you read my review.
You need to have a very high IQ to know who Marlon Brando is.
No, just Brando.
He is invisible to the unwashed masses.
Have you ever heard of Elvis Presley?
LOL, cringe.
Cringe. Metro Man's character was based on Elvis Presley.
Oh my god. And Megamind was based on David Cross.
This has been a fun fact. This next review is Daniel C. for Chicken. It's 4 out of 5 stars.
Or
Chicken.
I like it.
I'm a little tied on this versus Shrek. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, it is one of the funniest animated movies there is.
It's this or Shrek.
God, I'm so torn.
There's nothing else. There are no other funny animated movies.
Never seen any.
But Shrek and this, those are the two.
Ratatouille, it's between Ratatouille and WALL-E for me. 2 of the funniest films I've ever seen.
For me, it's between Grave of the Fireflies and Fantastic Planet.
No. Grave of the Fireflies is so sad.
So is Fantastic Planet. A woman dies in the first scene of it. It's a very sad movie.
Yeah, I just remember thinking that movie was boring, but enough of that.
Anyway.
I was a child.
All right. Laura L. for Laura. Laura. This is such a great bit. We gotta do this on every episode.
Oh no.
3.5 stars. Pretty darn funny, even though pointless.
Alright, Mom.
And I guess Laura was just reconciling with the valueless nature of this meaningless entertainment that we fill our lives with.
It literally reminds me of my mom, like, watching me watch Adventure Time and just being in the background, like, why are you watching this? There's no point to it. There's no morals. I'm like, okay.
You're not growing in the light of God.
It's fun to watch. It's silly, man.
I enjoy.
I'm like, I guess it's pointless, but it's also just like entertainment, so what are you gonna do?
Also, it's filled with deep philosophical angst.
Good versus bad. Tale as old as time. Ooh, Sparky W gives it 2 out of 5. It has clever gags and a talented voice cast, but it suffers from being old and raggy.
Old and raggy?
Ooh.
What does that mean?
What's the raggy part? Ruh-roh. Raggy.
It really suffers when Shaggy shows up.
He's just smoking weed in the corner the whole time.
I can't tell you how many movies are ruined when Shaggy shows up. He shows up in so many movies, and he always ruins them.
Classic.
He shows up halfway through the Titanic, and he just tells everyone to get on lifeboats early, so there's no drama.
There's nothing even happens.
Shaggy just knows everything.
He makes every movie more boring.
He shows up in Fight Club, and he tells everyone, don't worry, it's an alternate ego.
Dude, Shaggy is omnipotent. He is God.
And he comes into Hogwarts, and he's like, guys, it's okay. He's down in the basement.
Wait a minute. Dude, I don't know if we were on... I don't know if you remember this, the thing about Shaggy just having, like, ultimate godlike powers. That was, like, a meme for a while. You remember that?
There was one of, like, the 500 Scooby-Doo movies had a scene where Shaggy, like, gets hypnotized into thinking he's super strong, and so he beats up a biker gang. And that became a meme for a while where they were like, he's the ultimate warrior.
Yeah, it was such a meme for a while. I think that we just unlocked something here. This is super off topic, but I think that we found this. This is the secret key that's been hidden for years.
We've always known there was something up with Shaggy.
This is the ring at the bottom of the lake that Smeagol finds. And we are Smeagol.
Sparky W. Hold on. Sparky's a dog name. Like Scooby-Doo.
I don't know, I knew Seal named
refers to him as Raggy.
Oh.
So Scooby-Doo is going by an alternate ego as Sparky. This is going nowhere.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Really devolved.
Nowhere or everywhere. Nung N for Nung. Nung Nung. Just every time it's the same letter.
Nung Nung.
2.5 stars. Evil goes good, but not good enough.
Okay. He still gets the girl, though.
He gets
Bad
the
guy
girl.
can get girl.
Bad guy can get girl.
As a treat. Ooh.
Here's the long one.
This is Stuart K. 3 out of 5 stars. Directed by Tom McGrath, Madagascar 2005, and Madagascar Escape to Africa 2008. This was originally had one simple pitch. What if Lex Luthor defeated Superman? From there it just grew, and while it is a very silly film that sends up the conventions and cliches of superhero films, it is quite enjoyable. It's almost like the dark version of The Incredibles 2004, where the baddie is the hero in a strange way.
Man, this guy's doing more research than we are.
Megamind, Will Ferrell. I love how he's citing his sources. It's an intelligent supervillain who came to Earth as an infant after his home planet was sucked into a black hole. How do you know that? Yeah, they never say it was sucked into a black hole.
It does show that.
Does it really?
Yeah, the planets are like being sucked into a black hole as the little spaceship is flying away. They don't say it, but...
Interesting. I never knew we were just inferring things now.
I don't know that there's a lot of room for interpretation. I do think you see the planet get sucked up by a black hole.
Damn, Tim, how can you do this to me?
His parents are looking down at him from evil heaven.
That's right. However, he's had a rivalry with superhero Metro Man Brad Pitt, also an infant who came to Earth as an infant, around the same time Megamind did.
Right.
They battle and Megamind constantly fails. However, while Metro Man is honored by the city of Metro City, Megamind kidnaps reporter Roxanne Ritchie, Tina Fey, and lures Metro Man into a trap, and he's killed. Megaman revels in the fact that he's won. Megaman revels in the fact he's won, but he misses having a nemesis. So he creates a new superhero. Titan, using news cameraman Hal Stewart, Jonah Hill, but Hal soon has other ideas. This has all been seen before elsewhere, and it should be funnier with a vocal cast like that. But it manages to be entertaining while it lasts, and the cast is having fun, hamming it up. It could have been a lot better, though.
Well, that's a shame. It could have been better. Thanks for the feedback.
And there's a character called Minion in it, as there was another film out in 2010 with more than one Minion in it.
They got more than one Minion? I guess they win.
Oh, it's all about the quantity and not the quality of the minions.
Yeah. I mean, every single one Minion is more lovable than David Cross.
Banana.
Dude, banana.
A banana. That's how they sound.
I forgot why I picked this one, and then I realized while you were reading it, you don't have to put all this information in your...
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not really making an argument. He's just describing the plot of the film.
This is like a full paragraph, and 70% of the paragraph is just like background information, which I guess is useful for a review if you think people are like looking to your review as like, should I see this movie or not, as opposed to just a general feedback of like what people think. But also, his final verdict is just like, I liked it. Could have been better. I don't know. Whatever.
It's kind of just like how it always is for people who just want to know facts. They just would like to know facts about things. They don't really have an opinion about it.
Or they want other people to know that they know facts.
Right, exactly. So this guy's just telling us what he knows.
Yeah. And he does know.
And his opinion is just ultimate fact.
The ultimate fact. Stuart K's opinion.
Could have been better.
It's a quick one from Ty M. 2.5 stars. What's with all the great reviews? It wasn't that good and was weird.
He read all the great reviews. He was like, I'm different.
I need you guys to know you're wrong.
I'm not like other girls.
I'm Ty M. I'm not like other girls. I'm like a marsupial.
Or something.
For you see, the letter M stands for marsupial. F stands for female, but M stands for marsupial. We're going to have to remember this alphabet.
Alexandria J gives it 1 out of 5. I don't like this movie. I guess it was just because it was a rip-off of Despicable Me. Damn, that's cold.
Alexandria, it takes a while to make a movie. I understand that maybe you're not thinking of it that way, but it takes quite a while for production to go through like that.
4 months on that one scene.
Yeah.
On God. That's... wow.
Isaac T says 2 stars. In my opinion, I thought it was sort of boring, but there were some funny parts to it, but it seemed like it tried to copy what Despicable Me did. Also, the characters are typical. Metro Man has that Superman style and personality. The reporter is your everyday love interest character, while Minion is that warrior overprotective character.
That warrior overprotective character. Can you name a warrior overprotective character right now?
The nanny from The Family with All the Kids. I was going to say the Addams Family, but that's not it.
I was going to say that too.
The Brady Bunch.
Oh,
the nanny from the Brady Bunch. But I also don't know that she's that character.
Yeah.
Pleakley from Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, yeah.
Or the sister from Lilo and Stitch.
There aren't always like a token characters that worry too much, are there?
No. Chucky from the Rugrats. Minion's a lot like Chucky. But it's like, I don't know. There are tropes.
Yeah.
And characters do fall into them.
Yeah, I guess Isaac's got a point.
Yeah, Isaac Pterodactyl.
Pterodactyl with a T.
With a T. With an even silenter P. You don't even write this P.
Alexa E. E for Esperanza.
Alexa Esperanza.
It's 1 out of 5 stars. All caps. Worst DreamWorks animated ever. So boring. And no plot.
No plot?
No plot, dude. You know what? She's right.
I thought there was a plot. I guess it was wrong. We didn't really describe the plot very well, so I guess there wasn't a plot.
I think that one paragraph did it for us pretty well.
That's true. She really should go back and check out Stuart K's stuff.
I think she might like it.
Yeah, I think she'd feel a little differently if she could see that. This one's anonymous. 0.5 star. I do not like Megamind. It is one of the stupidest, dumbest animated films I have ever seen. I don't like the animation to it. Everything is so CGI. I'm not impressed on what the movie was like. Some of the characters look pretty weird. I'm gonna forget about Megamind.
You know what? Fair.
Everything is so CGI. I didn't even notice that, but like the whole movie's that.
That's crazy.
That's like kind of weird.
Too CGI for me. I didn't know what I was signing up for. Also, it was so brave. He had such a strong opinion, he had to mask his identity.
Yeah, he didn't want...
They had to mask their identity. This could be anyone.
It could be anyone.
This could be your mother, dude. I don't know.
I don't know if she would pick that profile pic, but I don't know.
Who is that?
It's some close-up of a guy.
Alright, Anonymous. 2 out of 5 stars. Most of its plot points are confusing and are forgettable. No stop.
I feel like people are having a hard time just, like, perceiving this movie.
Yeah. How is it confusing though?
I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces. I
That's
guess
true.
it can be confusing, maybe, if
But
you're
if
not
you
following
step
along.
back and you look at all the different little pictures,
You'll
it can
realize-
make up one big, big picture, like how it actually happens.
Or you'll realize that there's no plot at all. Stefan B. gives it a 1.5 stars. Horrible picture. Saw it at the TV in my podiatrist and missed my appointment. Yet again, Ben Stiller gets his dirty hands all over a movie and makes it a stinker. How can you tell that this is Ben Stiller's doing? The fact that a big blue man is considered smart is stupendous. The only smart man in this movie is Jonah Hill for his previous work in The Hangover. The big blue man terrorizes the city, but his background of child abuse and foster care is no excuse for his behavior. 5 stars if Ben Stiller was not in it, 3 out of 10.
Yo, child abuse and foster care?
I mean, he is raised in a prison by prisoners.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
foster care? Wait, where was the child abuse? This is what I gotta know.
I think because he had a tough childhood. I think he's approximating that altogether.
Oh, like the bullying and stuff?
Yeah. Just like having a tough childhood. He's like, oh, that's child abuse.
Oh, man.
It's like, oh man, that's a term that means things.
I like how this guy just really doesn't like Ben Stiller.
Yeah, it's a weird specific thing to get cut up on, because it's like, I wouldn't know that it was Ben Stiller if I wasn't told that. I guess his mark is unmistakable.
You know it's bad.
It's bad.
It's really, really bad.
Well, what's our final verdict on Megamind?
Mine?
Yeah.
I think it's enjoyable. I don't think it's like, anything crazy for all time. It's not like it didn't, explode the market or whatever.
Yeah.
It's no Coco or... Sorry, I'll
Or
stop.
Ratatouille or Shrek 2 or...
Or Wall-E. Honestly, Wall-E is a pretty good film. But those movies that just like throw it out of the ballpark. It wasn't one of those, but it's still like a pretty solid film, I think.
Yeah.
It's silly, it's funny.
Yeah, it doesn't strive to be this huge tentpole film. It's silly and it's fun and it's well crafted, and I like it a lot. I appreciate movies that are like this. I think I appreciate them more now as an adult, weirdly enough.
Same.
Like, I think without wanting to like justify hobbies or leisure time. Yeah, I think it doesn't swing for the fences, but what it does very well, and I think that's worth acknowledging and appreciating. And sure, it's got some shots where it's like spandex going up a butt, and it's like, oh,
It's
look
a
at the butt.
classic comedy.
Yeah, it's like, there's stuff for the kids, but there's enough for the adults to be like, yeah, go watch it. I'd recommend it.
It's definitely I think maybe it's not a classic, but it's worth a watch.
Yeah, but it's like a Baroque.
It's Baroque.
It's Baroque as hell.
Yeah, that's why they cut out all those characters.
Yeah. Do you want to do another episode of Chunk Watch?
Chunk Watch?
There's not a lot of chunk in this movie.
Okay, but Hal?
There is
Pre-Titan Hal?
Pre-Titan Hal is about as chunk as you can get. He's got a good amount of hunch as well. He's got a bit of a hunchback, which is pretty chunk. That's some chunky back.
I do like that. Who else was there any other chunks?
No. There's a lot of sleeks. A lot of slip and slides.
Not enough diversity in this movie, I have to say. Not enough Chunk Watch.
That's true. There's 3 human characters, and they're all white as hell.
I do think that the warden has
Oh,
an
yeah.
underrated dump truck ass.
That's true. The warden knows how to back that up.
Honestly, and I'm fine with that.
And that's what we want to see. And Minion too, the weird roboticized gorilla suit.
Gorilla butt.
Yeah, like you don't design like a big chunky suit like that without thinking about the chunk, Mr. Megamind. We know what this is all about, Mr. Megamind.
Yeah, I don't think there was enough Chunk. I think that there should be more Chunk.
Yes.
That is going to be my negative review of this movie. 0.5 star. Not enough Chunk. Would like to see some more Chunk redo and come back.
I know that because it didn't do well in international markets, they're not planning to make a sequel, but if they do, we ask that the characters be given approximately 22% more chunk.
More Chunk, please.
Or at least 22% more characters with 50% more chunk.
Weirdly enough, this movie did really well when it came to DVD. Just a fun fact.
I think, makes sense. It's like, yeah, you can watch this whenever.
Yeah, it didn't hit the box office, as but it's definitely one of those movies that, like, kids 20 years from now, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, I just like found this DVD like in my parents' basement.
I watched it all the time as a kid.
Yeah, and it's gonna be one of those niche things, you know, because it's not like a classic. Like everyone doesn't have it, but some people are gonna know it.
In 5 years, we're gonna have a whole generation of people who, unironically, just speak in B-movie quotes because that's all they know.
Here I am making pop cultural references.
Here I am talking about Brad and Angelina from 2014 or whatever.
Wow, I'm really dating myself.
And speaking of dates, this one's over. Bye.
Bye.